Right, well, the thought of World War III erupting got some people rather excited, didn't it? So many, let's keep it polite, call them troubled individuals on social media screaming that NATO need to trigger Article 5 of their founding treaty and go full Kenny Everett in announcing, let's bomb Russia, as two rockets detonated within the border of Poland, killing two farmers in the 60s. I just found it incredible how so many people seem to have a death wish, since we're all going to die if nuclear war ever broke out. This gets particularly ramped up on social media, sites like YouTube or TikTok, with videos of people talking about how Poland should trigger Article 5 immediately, which they can't do on their own. NATO as a collective would do that, 30 some odd countries, I believe, or talk about the different warheads in the Russian arsenal and the fallout from them if they hit the UK. The favourite always being Russia's biggest, the Tsar bomber, the biggest nuke ever created, in fact, 27 tons of destruction. Just for the sake of interest, it was tested in 1961 on Severny Island, north of mainland Russia, and the blast was so big, the flare was seen in Norway and Greenland, the mushroom cloud was 42 miles high, and the blast wave circled the globe 3 times. It was ultimately deemed so destructive as to have no strategic value whatsoever. Only 3 of them were ever built. One was the test device, the other 2's empty shell cases now sit in museums. Nobody is going to get hit by one of these, though I certainly question the strategic value of any nuclear device, no matter what the size. For one, as Chernobyl demonstrated, the land is destroyed for generations, so not exactly liberational stuff. And for 2, the first idiot to hit a big red nuclear button will trigger everyone else to do so in mutually assured destruction. Nukes serve no purpose except to allow small-minded leaders to wave their willies about. Anyway, that's enough talk of them. They're not key to this story, at least not yet. The point I wanted to make was that the assumption from the get-go was that Russia was to blame, because they're always to blame, because they are the bad guys. Russia have clearly sent a message to NATO daring them to act. Nobody else would do such a thing, only for it to come about that actually, with the investigation still ongoing, of course, that most intelligence is saying the devices that detonated in Poland actually came from Ukraine. NATO, Poland itself, as well as the US, are all pointing to Ukraine as the likely source. Now, nobody is actually blaming Ukraine for intentionally doing this. The allegations are they were launched to counter Russian missiles and human error played its part. In fact, here's NATO President Jens Stoltenberg spelling it out.
An investigation into this incident is ongoing, and we need to await its outcome. But we have no indication that this was the result of a deliberate attack. And we have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory against Russian cruise missile attacks. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
He said it quite clearly. The missiles likely came from Ukraine. However, it wasn't their fault. Ultimately, Russia bears responsibility. Again, we're back to this narrative of Ukraine good, Russia bad, Ukrainian accident. If it had been Russian, no doubt it would have been reported as intentional. But this war has never been that black and white. And reinforcing that has been the response over all of this by Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, who has vehemently denied his country being responsible and has said there is no doubt in his mind that the missile that hit Poland was not from Ukraine, in defiance of, thus far, the evidence gathered by multiple agencies. Despite this being made clear to him, he will not budge in his opinion of that. And this is now making life very difficult for NATO. Oh, poor dears, who are doing their damnedest to exonerate Ukraine and still level the blame at Russia over this incident. And Zelensky's response is making them look like tits over it, with complaints that Ukraine are destroying the confidence of their NATO supporters over this. Zelensky has said if a formal investigation, which seems obviously necessary, finds otherwise, they will have to apologise. But that seems remarkably insufficient given 2 people have died. Russia started this, make no bones about that, but there is never a winner in war, only different degrees of loss. There's a dishonesty about this one. When yes, sure, Russia are to blame for a great many atrocities here. They started this nonsense. But when Ukraine is as well, yet feels bold enough to deny any such accusations aimed at it, aided and abetted by NATO leaders offering opinion when investigation is still going on, you do feel like you're being taken for an idiot. It was only last month that Russia got the blame for cutting the communications cable between the Shetland Islands and Scotland. It turned out a trawler anchor had done it instead. The jumping to conclusions, the assumptions being made before the facts are known, up to the point of wanting to begin nuclear Armageddon, shows the power and damage dishonest, misleading media narratives can cause. And with social media being what it is, it's little wonder so much bullshit ends up getting spouted as fact en masse. My sincerest sympathies to the families of those Polish farmers.